Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
There is nothing that anyone can say about me that I have not heard already. You're just not that creative.
And Dale Hummel.
He who dares not offend cannot be honest.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, it's an early Monday morning.
It is way too early for this bullshit, I'm not going to lie.
I don't think our schedules meshed real well this week.
They did not.
And I think this one might have been Clifton.
This is you and Clifton's fault. This is not my fault this time, so I blame all of you people.
I got in very late, very, very late from Exarban last night. And it is 6 a.m. Central Time.
Somebody drove you anyway, so I don't even care.
Craig did drive the entire way back.
Exactly.
Do you want me to tell you part of the reason that was allowed to happen?
Why?
I was at Exarban, and I got my license out, and somebody explained to me that it had expired back in July. So I can't drive. We may or may not be driving 9 hours one way, or 9 hours, 6 hours one way today, and I can't drive.
I hate that for you.
I do too. Well, I spent a few days in Exarban, and I want to thank those that stopped by to express their love for the podcast, and especially those, and there were many, Ryan, that wanted to discuss bed bugs, and it was my first hotel stay since that experience. Great hotel. The bed frame, Ryan, as I told you, slick metal frame. Everything was clean. Everything was good. No physical bed bug bites. Some mental bruising still for me. And shockingly enough, many of the listeners that came up they have phobias about the bed bugs at hotels. I didn't mean for that to happen, but I think, look, Ryan, you are looking at the hotels, checking for them before you.
No, I'm not.
Right, they're going to get you. I'm just telling you, they're going to get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you keep telling me that.
Well, thank you to those listeners that did stop by. I appreciate it. Always enjoyable to visit and get some of your ideas about the podcast and so forth. Ryan, what were you doing while I was in Exarban this time?
Let's see. I did lots of things. I judged shows. That was enough for me.
And you went to Callie's?
I'm at Callie's right now. Yes.
That is why you have good internet.
Mm-hmm. And we have another county fair and our state fair and another show. It's a very busy week, but this was not my fault. The 6 a.m. nonsense. This
It is not. I wish I was at Dallas today. It is Goat Show Day, and I did not get a flight from Grand Island to
you're cheap.
Dallas. It just was it was not going to work, period. No possible way. Speaking of Exarban, Ryan, we talk on here about that experience that families have from the time you get there in line, the interactions with people. And we usually say the good and the bad. Staff, extremely positive. And I can promise you, I know others may not think the same way that I do. And I'm sure, Ryan, you probably do not at all. But when you have somebody pleasant that greets you in that check-in line, from somebody pleasant at the gate when you're checking in to get into your class, those things just make a difference. It sets a tone, and I commend Exarban for doing that. It was a user-friendly experience that made, I think, most families there much more pleasurable. So thank you to those that were involved at every level.
I don't know anything about Exarban. I've never been to Exarban. I've never been asked to judge Exarban. So
you were not allowed to show there.
No, they don't. They don't allow Texans there. They don't want me to judge their show. So I have no clue about Exarban. So it very well may be wonderful, and I'll take your opinion. I do have one complaint about Exarban.
Oh my!
Mm-hmm. They were very, very rude to my showman, Katie Hummel. They did not give her fun fact correctly, and I would like to protest.
So
she had the reserve. She won Grand Reserve in her division. They asked for a fun fact about the exhibitors. Katie, who is a true American patriot, very excited to vote in her first election, said her fun fact was that she could vote by 6 days, and she was voting for President Trump. And whoever announced I'm just going to blame that person and only that person. They left off the part she was voting for Trump. I'm very angry.
See,
Very angry. I
I
would like
think
that person's name. I would like to talk to them.
I think at that event that would have I can't imagine that would not have been popular. I understand at other events maybe that's probably not going to go well, but you would think it'd be overwhelmingly positive there, wouldn't you?
I would like to talk to this person.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but they did leave the Trump part off. They did talk about her being able to vote this year, but not that she was voting for Trump.
I need to talk to this person.
Well, I bet we can find out who that was. And you don't know. Maybe they didn't. Maybe somebody scratched out before they got to the card or something. You don't know for sure who eliminated that. There could have been a liberal hiding amongst the entire staff in there that found it.
Well, whoever ruined the Grand Drive experience for my goat showman, I'm very mad.
Understandably. I had the pleasure to work with some new show families that had purchased goats. It was what we talk about that positive show experience, and happy that it all took place as it did. So all good. We had a little bit of an issue getting logged in today, but fortunately it was both Ryan and I that had issues getting in. Ryan, there's some concern on my part over Iran, and I'm going to say other adversaries that are wanting to take Trump out. And it doesn't appear to be in the news outside of Fox and your garage station.
No, Trump just talked about Iran.
Oh,
and the plots to kill him. Yeah.
What do you think if Trump is elected? What do you think? What do you think what's going to happen to Iran?
I don't think good things are going to happen if Trump's elected.
So I don't know this to be fact, but I'm going to assume there's an unwritten rule that among the countries, and I'm sure things change, that you don't go and take out their leadership for fear it's going to happen to you. And
it's called retaliation.
I think that Iran has thrown this out the window. And don't underestimate the fact that a few of the other countries out there that would prefer Trump isn't there, in my mind, just don't have their fingerprints as clearly defined as maybe they didn't leave fingerprints. And I can't imagine that they would not like the same. And this is serious. I don't mean to make light of it by any means, because of the two attempts, there doesn't appear to be a lot of professionalism put into the assassination. And my fear is if a professional is out there, at least in the past, Ryan, they could have taken him out. And that is frightening.
Oh, this whole election is frightening for me. I'm going to be real honest, and we're very close to it. And I will say this. I do not believe his life will be in as much danger, win or lose. I think if he wins or lose, they're just trying to prevent him from getting there. And I think after the election, it will be better off. That's my personal opinion.
I agree completely. And particularly, Lord help us if he loses, no issue at all. If he wins, still much, much less. But right now, I don't know. He's not going to change things dramatically. But
that is not true. He moved that event inside this past weekend instead of outside. You are so rude.
When I say dramatically,
you are the most critical person in the world of Trump. I do not like it.
I am trying to put out some common sense advice here that almost when I say not change, I mean like go underground like Joe did for the past election, just hide in the basement.
Oh, so you want him to lose?
No, I do not want that. I want him to survive is what I want. And I don't have the proper solution, because if he does that, maybe he doesn't win. I don't know. But I do know that if he's taken out, that doesn't help anything.
Not going to argue that.
I don't even know what the protocol is if that were to happen. I'm sure there is one, but I have no idea what that would be.
All roads lead to JD Vance, and God help us all on that. But
I don't understand your negativity.
Because this is a family-friendly show, I will not give all the reason on my negativity of that moron. But
I do not believe he was the best pick to get elected, but I don't have a problem with his political views or his policy views.
Okay.
What else do
you? Speaking of the moron, JD Vance, so he had a campaign stop at some Priminati or
Why do you have to be so negative?
Because he's a moron. Priminati sandwich shop or whatever, and this was a planned deal, and then they told him he couldn't come in.
Liberal owned?
I don't know. And Camel Toe had campaigned there before. This is a big deal. It's getting lots of traction.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant?
Well, why? Who cares if a sandwich shop doesn't let him in? I don't care. It just means that they're liberal and they prefer the chameleon.
I don't think that. No, that's not right, Dale.
If it goes deeper, explain, please. I know I've not
cleared this. This is all. I mean, it's not like they hadn't talked about it. Whatever, all this other stuff, and they show up, and they just don't let him in. No, that's not right.
Do you think they put thought into wanting to embarrass him?
I think it's bullshit.
I don't. I would agree when I think about it. If it was already cleared, obviously, and it makes sense that it would have been that is crap. If they said yes and then shut the door, I'm with you.
That's what I'm saying.
I wish you had the proper name for that sandwich shop so you could officially throw them under the bus.
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Priminati, I think, but yeah.
Where at?
In Pennsylvania.
Got it. Some town in Pennsylvania?
It's a chain, I'm pretty sure.
Got it. Well, then we can, all the conservatives can just avoid it.
They already have.
They need to continue.
Where have you been? Oh, you've been.
I have not. I have not seen any news in several days. None. Zero.
You who normally gets up in arms over the stupidest shit, this is really a big deal.
I haven't seen anything of it. I haven't. I did turn on the news as I was falling asleep last night. There was some dilemma in maybe the governor. There's a scandal that I was unaware of. Not the New York City one, not the mayor, but another one that may affect the election. They thought, I'm going to guess, I was going to say North Carolina, but I really don't know. So I shouldn't even speak on it. But it appeared to be a big deal for a moment last night. I
guess I missed that.
Scandal on the Democratic side, I believe. Somebody at the top of or near the top of the ticket. But I need to research that. Hopefully it's a positive.
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
Well, give us some more updates. I need update.
Well, the New York mayor got indicted for fraud and bribery and all soliciting a foreign entity or whatever, and all.
It sounds like he's been deep in this crap.
I think he's a bad person, but
I agree.
He is blaming the fact that he was vocal against the lack of the Biden administration to handle the immigration crisis, and that's why he got indicted. But
it may be why he got indicted, but it did not influence his decision to do it.
So, and from everything that I have seen, I think this is going to stick. So, just overwhelming evidence, it seems like. But whatever.
What about Israel's battle against terrorism? It appears as though they're going strong still.
No, they're doing something. They're blowing people up with pagers, and they took out a new leader, and I don't know. I
don't think they give much of a shit what Biden thinks at this point.
No. It's been pretty clear that they're not listening to Joe, which who would? Let's just be honest.
And I think they're banking on Trump getting into office, and it all works.
Oh, and then your favorite foreign leader, that little idiot from Ukraine, who's stealing from us, literally robbing us blind. So he
that is a very. I don't know about him personally, but I am sure that a lot of those dollars have been misdirected.
Yeah, you just love that little short.
He seems to be a brave little soul.
No, he is not. He's just a corrupt little midget. I hate that man. Anyway.
It's a little bit biased.
He comes over here to get another $400 million from Joe.
Not billion?
So I don't know. A lot. I can't even keep up with it anymore. Anyway, and so he did meet with Trump, and I don't think it went well.
Excited. I know nothing of this.
Yeah. I mean, he did meet with Trump, and I think that Trump just kind of told him that this is not going to continue. He's going to end the war. And that's it. He did not look happy. I'm just saying. The little man did not look happy.
Post-Trump meeting.
Right.
Did Joe give him the money?
Yes, Joe gave him the money.
There's been a lot of money there. And I'm okay with the fact that they're fighting with anything negative towards Russia. I don't have a problem with, but I don't know that I'm with you. I am concerned there's a little corruption going on.
A little.
Maybe a lot. Maybe you think some of that money that Joe gave.
He's also losing. Can we bring that up?
Remember, but did not Putin think it was going to be done in 36 hours in the beginning?
Yeah, I know, but he's still not winning. He's not winning.
Exceeding expectations.
With the amount of money that we've given him, I think he should do better than exceed expectations.
I wish if we were going to help them, you help them and get it done, or you don't. That is where I'm at. Not this middle ground.
I'm going to
we're either in or we're out, and I don't have
offend a lot of people, but I do not have enough that little midget.
To say which way. I think everybody's aware of that. I think everybody's on there. Pretty sure of it anyway.
It's a terrible dresser. Anyway, next.
I do have it came to me a little bit in the conversation at Exarban with one of our listeners. And I think actually, I apologize, it's going to be in question and answer as well. But there was a conversation I had talked about. I got to meet some new families that had purchased goats from us. Ryan, can you remember, it doesn't even go to the old days for you, but you say you've never purchased in an online sale. You haven't been buying for a while, but you still, to my knowledge, had mentioned that.
I have never purchased an animal on an online sale. No.
It's interesting to me, and I know we've talked about this a little bit. Maybe we need a whole episode that there's that connection between the.
You told me that I couldn't talk about online sales anymore.
Well, you can't be so negative because 90% of the animals are sold online.
Yeah,
you can talk about
we don't need to have an episode because I think it's bullshit.
Oh my! Anything else? What about? I saw a short stream that Trump was at a football game and it looked like the entire stadium was
Alabama and Georgia. Yes.
Does that combined with
Tim Walz got booed at the Minnesota-Michigan one. So there you go.
Doesn't that tell you where people are a little?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
What about the Elon Musk poll on Twitter that was like 70-some% to 20-some? Now, my only reference that I should bring up is I think a lot of the liberals jumped off of X when Elon came aboard.
I'm sure they did because
it's probably not a real fair poll, but those are
completely against anything Elon stands for. If you're a liberal,
yeah, he's not one of their fans, or vice versa. Anything else of current events?
No, I do have a top 10 in the BTRJLA novice sheep. First place, Natalie Connor of Arizona, followed by Eli Hambrick of Arizona, Peyton Parks of Montana, Betsy Young-Peter of Ohio, Brevin Brown of South Dakota, Carly Stiles of Texas, Grayson Lewis of California. 8th is Avery Swallow of California. Cohen Hill of Alabama is 9th, and Reese Rowie of Arizona is 10th.
Impressive. Not only on the kids, but I believe you pronounced every name correctly this time. Best job ever.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to express each time I'm out at a show and make a point to walk through the cattle and the hog barns and obviously in the sheep and goat barns for more of the time, but I never make that tour through the other barns without somebody stopping and asking about Show Fresh H2O or giving a short testimonial that they've got it in their box. Thank you for sharing that information. It's always positive to know that one of our sponsors is being utilized and appreciated. And I'd like to thank Show Fresh H2O for their support of this podcast and the junior livestock industry. Show Fresh H2O can be purchased at your local farm store, show supply trailer, or at swampfox.com. Today's topic. Ryan, I believe you came up with this a while ago, but dove right into it last night when we had that discussion. What are we going to talk about today? Respect.
Yes.
Have at it, please.
So I just think that a lot of times it shows, no matter what role you play, that a lot of things happen that come across to other people as disrespectful, even though we may not even intend that or understand that it's happening. And I run these topics by several different people sometimes when I think, well, maybe I'm the only one that sees it this way. And I've run this by several people other than Dale, which Dale never reads anything I send him anyway. So it doesn't matter. He damn sure doesn't listen to anything I say because I'll tell him something and the next day he won't remember. But
It's called selective memory.
right. And I had a lot of people agree with me on this. And I think the biggest thing is that I don't think that these actions are meant to be disrespectful, but it comes across that way. And so that's why I kind of want to bring it up so we can bring awareness to these things and try to prevent it. I worry about the atmosphere at shows. And I've been very vocal about it. Like, I have decided that a large majority of the shows that I go to, either as a spectator or as a judge, I don't know if we're at a funeral or we're at a stock show. And so I worry about this. And I think this is part of that. And so I think that we should do our part in trying to change the atmosphere and make everything more enjoyable. So I think this is a topic that needs to be brought up.
I love it, and I think the little bit of discussion that we had on, I'm with you. I think in great part, I don't believe a lot of it's intentional. I think
Yeah,
it's
that's my
unintentional.
point. Yeah, I think it's unintentional. They don't know how it comes across, but if we bring it up, maybe make them aware that some things will change. And it's like I said, there are parts of this for everybody, every role at a stock show, and we'll go through it. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm picking on people or anything like that. So if you feel attacked during this, then use that to become better, because this is not about one instance or one person or anything like this. This has been on my mind for a while, and I've just put these thoughts together. And if you have problems with this issue, direct them to me, because Dale had nothing to do with this, and he probably doesn't even agree with half of it. But
I am sure I will agree with some.
but he was at Exarban and didn't care about getting a topic, so he left it to me, and this is where we're at. So yay.
I did I not reach out on my way home last night?
Yeah, and I asked you twice, do you have something that you want to talk about? And you said nothing.
I just was driving, maybe. No, I wasn't driving.
No, you weren't driving. No.
Distracted.
No,
How's that? Distracted.
uh-huh.
But I appreciate you coming up with this. This is a good one, and I know you came up with it at least a few weeks ago, if not before. But I think there's a lot of that, and the point that I believe that Ryan and myself would like to get across is when you're participating, competing at a show, and in the fact that Ryan makes reference that we don't know if we're at a show or a funeral, we do need to make a effort to make everything more positive. And even if the show is going well, there are things that still come across disrespectful. Which would be your lead one? Which one wears on you the most?
Well, I want to talk about exhibitors first, because this is the one that bothers me the most, because I truly think that a lot of this is very unintentional and they just don't understand. And I think it is important that no exhibitor wants to give a bad impression ever. And these things, this little group of things here, I think it really does give a very bad impression, and it's easily fixed or corrected. And so the first thing, and I don't know how people don't understand this, but being late to your class, that comes across extremely disrespectful to everyone else in the class, the people running the show, the judge. And I get that there are things that come up that cannot be helped, and those situations happen. But also, I'm going to sit there and say, 99% of the people that are in the class are there and ready, and you're not. So that always looks bad.
And I think you've not only it's a disrespect to the show and so forth, but you've really put out those that timed everything right to get to the ring and ready to go, and causing them to continue to wait. There's
Yeah.
that stresses me out as much as anything, figuring out when we're going to start getting that animal ready, so we're not taking any more time than we have to, so we can get up to the ring and right into the class. There's always an advantage, the less time usually between the time we start to prepare that animal to go into the ring until it hits the ring. If we get up there and then we're standing there because we're waiting on somebody, that
Yeah.
from an exhibitor standpoint, that is a challenge.
Right. And some people may not understand that this is a really big deal, but just like you said, from trying to time getting the animal ready and getting that up there, staff and the people, it gets them in a really bad position because not only do they have to break off and try to go find this said person, but then you've got a whole group of parents and exhibitors yelling at those people going, we want to go, whatever. And I'm telling you, as a judge, and even Dale, I think, would say this, if you have to wait a minute or two on a certain animal, you're going to be sitting there and you're going to look to the holding ring, and eventually you're going to figure out who the guilty party is. And I want to have a whole topic on the subconscious's effect on judging, but that is not a good look for the judge. I'm just telling you, it is not. When they figure out who's the person that's late, that does not help you whatsoever.
Even if we're trying not to hold it against them, it goes back to the subconscious.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And so,
I agree completely with that. And I think this spills over into not just your class, but what about when you're coming back for division or
well, that's my second point. And if you are first and second, or you've made the grand champion drive, or any of those things, be up there, be ready. I do not understand these people that have a first or second and go back to their stalls or all this other stuff. I don't get it. And so you've actually done well in the show. You have a chance to go further, and then you're not there and you're not ready. And these other people in that breed champion lineup or that division champion lineup or that grand champion lineup are, you've really shot yourself in the foot. And
agreed.
It again, it comes across as disrespectful. The judge awarded you a high placing. He wants to see your animal again. She does. And it is not important in your little bubble to be up there and be on time. Now, how do you think that comes across?
I think it's pretty clear. And again, there are situations that something may go drastically wrong that's for the most part out of your control, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about I don't even know if I want to say intentional,
I don't even
but it is.
I don't
that you're-
even know if there's a situation after your first or second that drastically wrong. You could have just stayed at the ring.
If it were, let's take a goat, for example. If for some reason we're holding him outside the ring and something spooks him and he gets his legs all messed up and you're trying to refix things. I mean, there are situations, but 99% of the time, this is within their control to be there on time.
Okay. We'll just let you go off on your little rabbit hole. But
well, I can use the example, and this did not happen. I think to my knowledge, it looked like everybody was on time. This past week at Exarban, they did have a 5-minute wait rule because a lot of kids were showing lambs and goats, and that becomes complicated. They said if they're over in the other ring, we'll give you 5 minutes to get through that and back to the other. And I don't know what's right or wrong there. I appreciate they're making some effort without trying to hold the shows up too long, but that's a difficult topic. When you come through your division, sometimes it's difficult if you're in that light class and maybe there's 8 classes or so in that division. It's going to be a while, and you have to make that decision. Are we going to stand here at the ring? Are we going to go back and go to the stand? Some people, depending on the amount of time, probably not. It's probably going to be more from the day show to the grand at the Coliseum, or the night show that we're going to go wash out and completely refit. A lot of those decisions need to be taken into consideration, but do so with the fact that, hey, we've got to be up there and we've got to be ready at the time we're needed.
Yep. The next one on the exhibitor level, we have talked about 9 million times. Nobody listens. It's just not going to change, in my opinion, but I'm going to bring it up again. And I understand that at some shows, they tell you which order you have to go in the ring, and then some shows, it's just, you can pick.
It's a battle to get somebody in first.
When you are the first person in the class, and you do not know where you're going, what you're doing, where you're supposed to line up, etc., it is extremely disrespectful to the judge. And I understand there are circumstances that maybe very, very few judges, and I mean like less than 1%, may not keep the same routine every single class, or you may be the very first class of the day, and if you're the very first class of the day, no judge is going to hold this against you not knowing where you're going to go. Any other time, I think you look like an idiot. I think it's a terrible impression, and it is extremely disrespectful, because not only are you messing up you're messing up all the other kids in the line.
I don't think there's any thought into it being disrespectful. Like you mentioned in the beginning, that wasn't what their intent. I think they just didn't get up there and do it. But I think the point is you have to get up there and watch so you know which direction you're going. If for nothing else, if you're not worried about the respect part, if for nothing else, give the judge the impression that you give a shit, and you're probably going to get along a little better.
Yeah.
That when you come in and you're totally lost, I'm not going to hold back on it. I think, well, why are they even here if they're not making the effort to do everything they can to succeed?
Nope, I'm with you. And like I said, we've talked about that one 9 million times on here, but I'm going to say it again. And then probably the last one in terms of an exhibitor standpoint, that I think people, I know this is completely unintentional because I've just seen it too much, because never has a kid just intentionally done this to be rude or disrespectful. But when a judge takes their time to say anything to you, they may ask you a question, they may say hello, how are you doing, etc. I understand that a lot of kids are shy. I get it. But when that judge speaks to you, you need to speak back. And I can't tell you, I mean, y'all would be really shocked at the number or the percentage of kids, because I speak to every single kid that comes in the ring, and it most times it's just, how are you? Good morning, all these things. But a lot of them never say anything back. And so I have kind of been immune to this because, and like I said, I get a lot of kids are shy. Maybe they don't have a lot of judges speak to them, but I've come immune to this. But this has come up in conversation a lot recently. And even if you don't know the answer to the question, if a judge asks you a question, just say, "Sir, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't know." But say something.
I would agree, and obviously, they're not intentionally going to try to offend the judge. I don't believe. I think shy. I think
And that's
nervous.
what I said from the very beginning.
All those things, but it does play again. Even if the judge is not trying to allow that to come in, it all plays on the subconscious. That's a very, at first, probably not at this point with you, Ryan, but when that happens, it's an awkward feeling for the judge, because you've engaged and you're getting this blank look. Obviously, you're going to go on. It's going to be fine, but it doesn't come across positive. Is my best, and I know. Remember, a lot of the things we're trying to gain from the junior livestock ring is to make us better people and better prepare us for adulthood. Well, speaking to people is part of it. I know it's harder for some than others. I get it. I was as shy and had as much difficulty speaking as a child to anyone as anyone out there.
Can we go
It's a
back to
challenge.
that part of your life?
Oh my, we could. Some days it would be good. So I get it. I understand, but do your best. And most of the time, it's not even a question. It's just good morning. How are you doing? Those kind of things.
Especially in that section and talking about those kids, I don't think this is ever intentional. And that's why it kind of wears on me, because I know it's not intentional. So I don't want them to do these things and come across as disrespectful. And so that's why I want to bring that up. Now, the next set of people.
I don't think you should have started with exhibitors. That is picking on youth.
No, I wanted them to be first because that's really the important ones to me. So I wanted that to come out first. The next group of people that I'm going to address are the people on the sidelines, the parents, the team members, the brokers, the breeders, all this stuff. And
You gonna throw grandparents in that bus as well?
sure, yeah, they're going to do it
Just
too. And
go ahead and offend the
I'm going to
entire.
offend everybody. Yep, I'm good at it. So I have some things to address with you people. You're not going to like it, but you need to hear it. And we have talked about coaching on this podcast several times. I will say again, I do not have a major problem with people coaching kids on how to show if it is done correctly and mildly. Like I said, I don't know how many times I've ever stepped in ring, but to this day, when I am showing in open shows, I will look over at somebody just to make sure that that animal is set the way I think it is set. And all they do is they either shake their head, yes or no. They don't have to tell me how to fix it, but they either just say yep or no. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with, one back. The A lot of people, everybody has their own type of sign language, all that. I don't, as long as it is not disruptive, I don't mind coaching. I don't. And there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that, and that's fine. The overcoaching is a whole different ball game and scenario. And when you're yelling at the kid, or you're standing up on the fence, or you're flailing your arms through the fence trying to get them to change something, all that stuff, yeah. This is why coaching gets a bad name. It is you people. And it is extremely disrespectful to not only the kid, to the judge, to the people trying to watch the show, but most importantly, it is not going to do you any favors with anyone. Like, you are the person that everybody at the show wants to hate when you do that.
This is true, and I think if nothing else, the biggest reason in what I observe from the ringside, and I will coach, whether it's my kid or the families that work with us, and you do your best to adapt to each individual and keep it minimal, because the biggest problem that I see is when you're out there trying to micromanage from outside the ring with an exhibitor that may or may not, and it doesn't matter how experienced that exhibitor is versus inexperienced, you're putting them in a position that just doesn't work. You can't micromanage. You can't change everything. We can, like Ryan said, thumbs up, give them some confidence, things are good. Or if you see something that maybe they didn't catch, a little bit here or there, let's move the left rear or whatever it may be. Minor coaching and that exhibitor, when they're focused on the outside ring help, more times than not, they've lost all of their ring awareness, and it compounds itself. Not only are they jacking with the animal too much, losing the ring awareness on where the judge is and when we should look the part, it just continues to snowball to be negative. And it happens. I see it at every single show.
Yep.
And it just doesn't work. So I'm not saying, just like Ryan, I'm not saying don't coach. I see showmanship judges that get crazy about if they notice any coaching whatsoever. I'm not going down that path or that far because I'm going to a certain degree. But more times than not, I have found if they're doing a pretty nice job, even if we're 90% versus 100, usually that thumbs up does more good than anything, that their confidence gets a little better and they're more at ease in that situation and things turn out better. The opposite, when you're yelling and jumping and screaming that this isn't right, that isn't right, it never ends well. Ever, ever, ever.
The next one, and this is a very small portion. I mean, very small portion of people, but I want to bring it up because I think it needs to be brought up. And like I said, this rarely happens, but it has happened, but just want to bring it up. Everybody knows that at shows, people like to drink and consume alcohol some. And I don't think there's any problem with that. This is, after all, a hobby. You're supposed to enjoy it. I get it. And so, but the very few times the person that is obviously drunk at ringside, if you have somebody like that, send them to the box. Send them to the stalls. Don't have them up there at the ring. Because it truly is just in such bad taste. I can't stress that enough. And like I said, very, very few times has this happened, but I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and it is a terrible look.
I would have to say I see it more. Obviously, the later in the day it goes, the more likely, but backdrop.
If they're at the backdrop, they were at the ring.
Yep.
And so, like I said, very, very few times, but do want to bring this up. The next one that I'm going to talk about, it offends me to my core. I want to slap people. It is also offensive to other people that are ringside and other judges and whatever. And it is the harem, the masses of 12 fitters that have to follow the animal into the ring. I'm going to go back and say, it used to be where there was a designated hitter in this area, like one person. And I if there was just one person doing it, while I would still feel like I think that this is dumb that you think that you have to follow this person in, that to let me be aware that this is a good animal, it would still offend me and I would still feel disrespected. I like one better than 12. Like I said, I attend lots of shows now. People make fun of these people. They do. They're like, oh, how many people does it take to show a prospect steer? 1, 2, 15. 15 in that group. That's how many have to follow this one in the ring. And I cannot stress enough, what you are saying, what you are implying is that we have to cause a scene so the judge knows that our animal is supposed to be good. They can't figure it out on their own. How disrespectful is that?
I think you take this one very personal, and I get it. I've been aware of it from the beginning, that this has always got you. And you can pretend like one is better than 12.
One is better than 12.
But it is still
It
not
still
good.
offends me, but
Yes,
one is better than 12.
And I don't believe most people take it as offensive as you. I agree with everything that you're saying, but I think you're hypersensitive to this particular topic. I like it, and I go back to just the latest show we're at, Exarban and many others in the goat arena, and you can do the same. I've seen it in the cattle arena as well. I'm not opposed to people helping get that animal to the ring, especially if there's blowers going on, they're not wanting to walk. No, I'm not. You are too sensitive. I'm not talking about how you did. So let's get them up there. But there is, in this situation, and I'll throw myself under the bus on this. It's the first, I think the first class that Katie showed in. get her up to the ring. She gets checked in by the way, a very, very positive gentleman checking goats into that holding ring. Usually they're as we've talked about, Ryan, kind of negative and just grumpy. This was the opposite. Appreciate it. Can't remember the gentleman's name, but fantastic job. So she gets in there, checked in, and I don't remember what it was, but I went back. I went into that area to mention something to her. I don't know. We had to go to the next class or saying, well, hey, we'll be at the out gate to switch off or whatever it was. And he politely said, hey, we're only exhibitors allowed in here. And I appreciate that. That kind of eliminates that problem. Not that you won't maybe look over the fence, Ryan, and see that harem just going even to the holding ring, but that helps eliminate it. And I'm sure you've had plenty of shows both ways and would prefer that.
Oh, I definitely prefer the. And like I said, I understand the exhibitors only in the ring, and I'm okay with that. I do think there are things that happen ringside, even in those few minutes before you go into class, that require having somebody else there. That's why I actually prefer if they allow one handler with that animal. Because if you're holding a goat and leg falls down, whatever, you can't hold the goat, fix the leg, all this other stuff. And so I am perfectly fine with the shows that allow one handler per animal. I think that's great. And because there are those things, and those things happen a lot where something needs to be fixed on the animal right before it goes in the ring. And like I said, I'm good with that. And I'm good if you have the designated hitter, whoever you think is the most important, and you feel like you need to follow that puppy in the ring. That's fine. It gets obnoxious when it's 3, 6, 12, and it is real. And the groups of 12 are more the norm than the other. It is obnoxious.
So Ryan, does it bother you when people follow animals into the ring?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay. Just checking. I want to make sure that's clear.
Yep, it is clear.
And even though you've said this how many times, does
it still happens at every damn show. And I do not. Yeah, I will say that there's a lot of personal thing in this, and maybe a lot of judges don't take it the same way I do. But I am telling you what it says to me, so we can be clear for the 500th time. Is you think I'm too stupid to figure out if your animal's good or not. So if we put a big circus behind it, that will show the judge that this is a good one.
I'm going to say that along with the fact that there may be an assumption that one of those people has a political connection or friendship with the judge and it's going to benefit. And I'm not saying it doesn't under some judges, but in general, I think that's the purpose.
Yes, that is the purpose. And it annoys me.
I can't. We didn't know that.
I'm just like
unaware.
Yeah,
unaware.
Okay. And then this one, and I've brought this up before on here, but I don't think people get it. But this has been brought to my attention more in the past couple months than ever before, and that's why I wanted to bring it up here. And of course, pigs are immune to this, but the other animals, when you block the exit gate to the show ring to put the halter on your kid's animal, and you completely prevent all the other animals from coming out, all this other stuff, this is so simple. Just let the animal come outside the ring, take 2 steps off to the side, and then do it. Why you feel the need that you have to halter that animal before it gets out of the ring and completely mess up the flow of the class, block things. I don't understand it, but y'all need to do better.
We need to rename this topic.
What?
Ryan's pet peeve.
No, I said this has been brought up to me more than
you're right. I see it all the time. And it is odd. And I assume they're thinking, well, it's just going to take a second. It won't disrupt. I don't think intentional, but it does take longer and it does back everything up.
Yeah. And like I said, I know nobody means that to be disrespectful, but that's how it comes across. So that is for the people that are helping. As far as the staff, volunteers, and judges, there's some here, and like I said, I want to state before I get into this that I know that the most people that do these jobs are not getting paid. They are volunteering their time, whatever. And so I hate to be critical of you, but because you have put yourself in a position like this, you are looked at more or as much as anybody at the show. And so I'm just trying to be helpful. Uh, the ring stewards that do nothing or don't pay attention or they think they're judging the class, please stop. Please. Like, you're the people that parents want to take your head off. And like I said, I know that you are a volunteer and that you are, donating your time. But if you're going to do it, let's stay present in the moment. Let's be helpful. Let's do our job.
Fair enough. And I do believe it's, I guess, watching, judging, however you want to look at it, showing all the above, that ring help or that ring person plays a pretty big role on how smooth that show is going to go in terms of it in and out, whether that kid gets a chance because that animal's not wanting to go, giving that help to get going, giving guidance in the ring as needed. There's a lot of things that are involved there, and that's a pretty big part of the show.
I'm going to say, other than the judge, the ring steward is the most crucial person on how your animal is going to place.
And let's all levels, county level up to national level. I don't know that it even happens at the national level. But Ryan, how many times would you be judging a show and you would say the ring help is not present or could be doing better? And this is not to be negative, but it's going to come across.
I don't think you want me to answer.
I want the number.
Question.
I
don't think you want me to answer that question.
Yes, I do.
80%.
And I'm probably with you. But maybe we're holding it too high a standard. But I promise you that impacts everything about that show and the outcome of the show, even.
Well, and I'm just going to use I'm going to use a personal example, but not call anybody out or call a show out. But when I'm judging a show, and it doesn't matter, like I said, the pigs are probably immune to this. But when I am judging a show and a steer, a lamb, or a goat won't lead, and the ring help doesn't move in to help that exhibitor, what am I going to do? I'm going to move in to help that exhibitor. And so when I move in to help that exhibitor, I am now focused on trying to get someone's animal to lead, and I am not focused on watching the other animals in front or behind that kid.
Nor could you watch them.
Right. When I should be giving my attention to them.
Yep. No, this is simple. And it's not picking on any show. And again, volunteers. And sometimes you just can't even get anybody to the ring. But I do believe if we would maybe, if you're short of ring help or somebody wasn't able to show up or something like that.
Do you know how many times I hear parents say, I will go in there? And
Yes. And I think probably would do a really good job because they understand the importance of it.
Because this is sounding way for their kid. So yeah.
And this sounds, I think we're coming across very, very negative, but it is what it is. And this is not intentional to be this negative, but it is. And this
is not a rainbows and butterflies episode. And I said that from the beginning.
This is the one simple area that I think we could probably change the flow, the experience of that show as easily as it's going to have as big of impact as any other change. And is lacking probably the most.
Yep. And like I said, that person is the next most crucial component, other than the judge, to an animal's success or failure in the ring, is the ring steward. And so there we are. This one is going to offend people, and I don't care, obviously. And this is a very small percentage of shows. But every once in a while, and this I have noticed this more, and I can give a very logical reason on why I've noticed this more. When I'm not judging a show than when I'm judging one, and it is the announcer that never shuts up. Just never. And like the judge can be sitting there waiting on the mic, and they're still talking about something, or they just continuously talk through the entire thing. Like, I noticed this at way more shows that I'm not judging than the ones I do. And, like, there are lots of great announcers. I think there are more good announcers than there are bad. But when this situation happens, it is just so annoying. It is.
I'm not disagreeing by any means with that, but I can't think of very many situations that I've witnessed like that. I'm sure
No,
they
I
exist,
said very small, but
and I prefer some interaction with that announcer,
I
whether it's with the crowd or anything to make it
I like
more
music more.
positive. Yeah, music. What I don't like is the complete and total funeral
Silence.
dead silence.
Yes, no,
That
I'm
is a
with you.
very awkward feeling for everybody.
No,
The
I'm with
person
you.
sitting in the stand, the exhibitor, and this is still happening too much. It's better, and I'm hearing music in the background. I'm telling you, when there's something in the background, people feel a little more at ease just to visit, to whatever. It just works. That dead funeral silence, Ryan, that is not a
It's
good
a
feeling.
buzzkill.
Oh, terrible. You wanna try to get somebody to clap, it's gonna be even harder under
Oh, yeah.
those situations.
No, I'm with you.
So announcers, I'm okay. Just keep talking. Just engage. Be good
There
about
you
it.
go. Okay. The next one, it's gonna ruffle some feathers, but it needs to be said. The judges who constantly check their phones or text while they're judging. It can be just as innocent as can be, and I probably think that the majority of the times it is. But it is the perception that matters, and when you are looking at your phone after every class, or you are responding by text and judging, everyone immediately assumes the worst, and that is that you're checking your phone about what's going on at that show, or you're responding to somebody ringside, and it is a terrible look, and I cannot tell you how many times this gets brought up to me time and time and time and time and time again. Now, I want to say, in defense of people that judge. Now, I try to be as good about this as possible.
Mr. Two Phones on
Right.
your
And
person at all times.
I have a very healthy attachment to both of my phones. I try to be as good about this as I possibly can. That's why I take a backpack. I put my phones in the backpack, and Dale can testify. He gets very angry because he'll have sent me 7 texts, and he'll be like, "Hello, you're not responding to me." I'm like, "Well, sorry, I was judging." So I try to be very good about it. There are situations, and I think this can be said for all of the things that we've been brought up, but there are situations where times that a judge probably needs to check their phone throughout the day. I can remember I was judging a show with somebody that wife was 8 plus months pregnant. It had been a real tough pregnancy, and he went on and judged the show because he felt like he had to, because, he committed to it. And so he was checking his phone quite often to make sure that everything was okay, but he just looked at it, put it in his pocket, and went on. I get there are situations like that. But I'm going to say again, when we're looking after every single class or we're responding to text messages or something like that, people are going to assume the worst. And it is disrespectful, I believe.
I agree completely. And in a very small percentage of time, is it going to be anything to do with the show? But it's simply opening the door for that assumption.
Yes, it's just how it is. And so the last one on that, and Dale is not going to probably agree or understand this, but again, I see this more when I'm at shows than when I'm actually judging. And I think a lot of, and I've said that several times throughout this thing, because when I'm judging a show, I'm just focused on the animals and the kids and judging. So I don't see as much of this. But when I'm at a show and Addie's showing or something like that, I I witness a lot more things and notice a lot more things, and Dale hates that I notice as much as I do throughout any process. He tells me that I over evaluate things, but um, when you have 15 people in the arena, and everybody's standing on top of each other, but nobody's doing anything. That is when people want to go insane. When there's so many cooks in the kitchen, but nobody's doing anything. You've got 15 people in the announcer stand, but nobody's out in the ring helping. You've got all these people standing around there with matching colored t-shirts or shirts on saying they're a volunteer, but nobody's lining up classes. That is when people get violent. And it happens. I'm just letting you know.
It is frustrating when you go to take it to the personal level, when you have your child out there and for whatever reason that animal is not cooperating, and this is the goat ring times 10 usually, and there are 3 or 4 people in the ring help, assuming, and they're just visiting over in a corner. And we're trying to literally, we'd be better off picking the goat up and carrying it around the ring because there is an assistance, and and it doesn't just not just in goats. I mean, across species, it can happen, and parents get very angry.
Oh yeah, another one for judges, and in your judging career, there's going to be multiple times, probably a lot of times, where you have to share a ring. It's a 2-ring show, share a mic, all this other stuff, and I just want to say I was at a show. I'm not going to say which show, but one of the judges got upset because didn't think that the other person was being courteous in terms of responsible or respectful of sharing the mic, all this other
You were
stuff.
talking too much. Is that what you were doing?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh,
Again, I was the spectator, but I was the spectator at the show. I wasn't judging. I think we forget about things like that, and at times, if I am very conscientious when I'm judging a 2-person show, because I cannot tell you the number of times when you're sitting there waiting to talk to class and the other person is going, and like that is when you're just you feel like the goldfish in the bowl the most, because you're not moving, you're not doing anything, you're not judging, and you're just waiting to talk, and every eye in the place is staring at you. And so I get it. So I try to be very conscientious about it. I realize that I'm a little long-winded, but when there is another judge there, I try to cut it off. The other thing I'm going to say is I get that we all move at different speeds and we all evaluate differently. But if you are taking way, 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 way more time than the other person, and then you are blocking the show from progressing, all this other stuff. Just try to be conscientious of.
you cannot have a judge sort faster than they're comfortable doing. That will not work.
That's a bunch of bull. I've heard lots of people go and tell a judge to speed up. Not me.
No, I agree with that sometimes it needs to happen, but I don't know that. I'm assuming, and I can use myself as an example that move through them at your comfortable speed, and it needs to be fairly quick for somebody to show.
You have told me on several occasions, boy, this person is out there just soaking up their moment.
No, not that.
Yes, you have
soaking up their moment. That
yes,
I think some people just take that long to process.
You have used those exact words to me before.
Well, that doesn't happen as much as some people just take longer, and I get it. I do get it. And by the way,
and so you've never complained.
Yes,
when it's a 2-ring show and one person is taking way longer and the other person isn't.
No, lies. I have that. And I've complained even when it's a single show and my children are exhibiting and it is occasionally just way drawn out. But I have shared a microphone across the rings with you, and I remember very specifically, I was getting ready to talk a class, and I think you may have just intentionally jumped right in front of me, so I had to wait on you.
Probably if it was you.
And I am conscious of that double ring, and you know what, it is an awkward situation for probably the exhibitors, for everybody involved when you're waiting in the microphone. So yeah. Again, in all seriousness, I do agree with what you're saying, and just be conscious of it is the best plan. And I can't tell you how to adapt, but just put some thought into it, especially when it comes time ring A is sorting a given class, and ring B has the champion drive out there or the division champion. Maybe it shouldn't matter, but I want that division champion to take priority. And maybe that's crazy, but it is what it is.
No, I'm with it. And then the last one that I'm going to bring up, Dale kind of brought up earlier. We have taken the backdrop to a whole new level, people. And I cannot stress enough from the standpoint of a judge. And this is something that we've talked about on here. And all my friends that judge have been like, thank God somebody brings this up. The backdrop is the most awkward situation in the world anyway. And like Dale said, people being drunk, you don't know if they're happy or mad because whatever. But here's the thing that drives me crazy and drives other people crazy. That judges spent multiple hours there judging that show. Show's over. Obviously, going to try to take pictures with the grand reserve, maybe the top 5. Let those people who won those awards, let them go and get done. Because again, that judge has spent all day judging that show and probably has other places they want to go, even if it's just to the hotel room. And these people that don't let the grand reserve in the top 5 take pictures with the judge, you are just it is literally the most disrespectful thing you can do. And I don't get it. I don't know when I could do a whole topic on backdrop etiquette. I could. Dale would hate it, but I could talk for probably 2 hours. But anyhow,
it is sometimes a mess.
Yes.
I don't know how else to put it. Just a mess.
Yes.
And I'm not it's not the blame of the photographer, the show staff. It just we just have to be a little more conscious as exhibitors and what needs to be done. And maybe some guidance from the show staff say, hey, here's how we're doing it.
And then the one other thing that I forgot, and I want to bring this up because it was like I said, I run topics by people, and one thing that I did not think of, but Dale has talked about it on here before, and so have I, but it needs to be brought up. In terms of your schedule for the show, whatever you print, go by that. But like Brent was saying, if the judge wants a lunch break, announce that at the start of the day. When we get through Poland's, we're taking a lunch break. And it's going to be 45 minutes or whatever. But like Dale has alluded to on here several times, there is a lot of thought process and a lot of energy goes into the getting the animals ready for the show. And the more informed we are on how the schedule is going to progress throughout the day, the worst thing you can do is be like at 11:45, oh, we're going to take an hour lunch break now. Thanks. Bye.
Terrible. Biggest, I cannot tell you how that impacts so many people when you do that. And if you say, okay, we're going to take a lunch break, we'll be back in 30 minutes, and you're back in 60. Yeah. You don't, if you're going to take 60 minutes, that's fine. Or I would prefer you say, okay, we're taking a lunch break. We are going to start back up at precisely this time.
Yeah, we're going to start back at 1:15.
I love it when I go to a show and they announce ahead of time that after the weather division, we're going to take a break and we will update you if it changes, but we plan to start back up at such and such time.
Right. Yeah. And the same thing goes for not just for lunch breaks, but for grand drives. And a lot of times, especially we're talking about these multiple ring shows or whatever, if you're going to let ring B finish before you do the grand drive in A, tell the people that from the beginning. Let them know.
Yes. Or that it becomes more complicated with multiple ring. I get it. But that means you need to put more effort into keeping everybody updated with what we're doing.
Yeah. And a lot of people, there's a lot of judges that need like a 5-minute break before the grand drive, get their thoughts together, whatever. Just say, hey, we're done with the crossbred stairs. we're going to start calling for them, but the grand drive's going to start in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. I get it. But the more that you communicate the schedule and the more that this pre-planned stuff can be announced from the beginning, the more respect you're showing your exhibitors.
Absolutely. That would help immensely. Brian, this was good. Maybe just a little bit negative, but good.
I do not care if it was negative. I am trying to help. I am trying to help people. And you can't help people by not pointing out what they're not saying. And I think for the most part, like I have said, this is very unintentional. They don't know how this looks or affects them. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. That's why I think it's important, because most of these things are a very easy fix, exceptionally easy. And I am sure that our one listener will probably send me a snap and tell me how bad this episode was, because it was negative. But again, I think in the long run,
I had a chance to visit with butterflies and rainbows this week.
Oh, I'm so glad that y'all got to spend quality time together. But in the long run, I think it will be a positive. So that's where I'm at. And like I said, this is my idea. These were my things.
Don't put this on me. Do not.
I am saying that. I've stated that.
I agree with many of the points, but yes,
this was all me. And there you go. If you want to change it to Ryan's pet peeves, that's fine. But a lot of those aren't my pet peeves. I'm being honest. I think everybody knows my pet peeves, and it was in here. But no. I want to thank Basic Animal Health for being the question and answer sponsor. Basic Animal Health has many, many supplements for your show animals, but they have created a revolutionary solution to design your animals to be happy while traveling to the show. It's called Trailer Ride. It's an all-natural, complete health supplement that is designed to combat the stresses of travel, and this product is shown to have unlimited uses, including minimizing gastric distress and calming the animal for a safe and comfortable ride. But it also boosts the immune system, supports respiratory health, and contains electrolytes that will encourage your animal to continue to hydrate and drink going to the show and after you get there. If you would like to purchase Trailer Ride or any of the Basic Animal Health solutions and supplements that they have, please go to www.basicanimalhealth.com. We appreciate Basic Animal Health, Leonard Truck and Trailers, and the Leonard family for their support of this podcast.
Thank you, Leonard family. Our first question comes from Billy. Love the podcast and your approach to the stock show industry. The question goes back to the social media episode. Do you think all of the social media posts go back to attention seeking? No matter the post, there will be someone that validates that person's opinion, and that's what they're after.
I think a lot of it, they are seeking attention. This is why I said I think social media is the biggest failed experiment, but also
social
the greatest
evil.
I mean, it is the greatest and the worst experiment ever. But yeah, I think they're seeking attention. But also, I have an issue, and this you want to talk about personal things. I have an issue with people that seek negative attention. My brother was that way. Randy was just hell-bent that negative attention was better than positive attention because you got more of it when you were negative. And so I see a lot of that in social media, and I just rail against it.
Agreed. Completely. Second question. This was actually asked to me by a young lady at the show this week in person.
Lord. Oh, Lord.
And Ryan, I did I tried to, question and answer is not my arena, but I did my best. Mm-hmm. But I think this would be a good perspective to throw out to you.
Mm-hmm.
This question was asked in reference to goats, but I think it can play out across species. And Ryan, you'll bring a unique perspective. This young lady was a senior in college, finishing up, I assume, in the spring, enthusiastic about showing goats, breeding goats, raising goats, wondering with her few does that she has right now, how can she get to the next level? How does she progress forward post graduation?
How, like breeding wise?
Yeah, by breeding better, selling more, going from just, I assume, selling a few goats at the local level to all the way to the national stage.
Oh, well, you're the freaking goat.
This is a cross species. I did answer this, and I'll happy to comment, but I would like your perspective.
I mean, I think that the natural or the most logical way is you always try to improve the genetics that you use to get better animals. But I also think that now more than ever, in my opinion, for large sections of the stock show industry population, customer service means just as much as the animal. And
I think because it's maybe been neglected as much as anything in the past, it has become, it's the forefront.
and so that is hard for people to understand, but I really think that is a real thing and a real point, and that is as easy of a fix as any, in my opinion. Like, you are either going to give it your all in terms of customer service, and I'm not talking about just during the sale. I'm talking about after the sale, and we all know that after the sale normally are months and months that this project's going to be on feed. And that is what I hear more than anything else. God, we bought from X, Y, and Z, and we never heard from that blankety blank again. Or we bought from ABC, and anytime we called, anytime we text, we got a response. They checked, they came to shows, they helped us get ready for the show. They just went above and beyond. I would say that would be the easiest way to set yourself apart.
I think that's going to really help her establish that client base.
Yep.
Put you on the fast track. You see, I knew I should throw this. You did a much better job answering this question. And while we're on the main topic of respect, and I'm just going to throw this out there. If a family or a child comes to you to purchase an animal that they have worked hard to make, that possibly this is truly a big expenditure that they're sacrificing in other areas so they can buy this animal, as a breeder, I guess you could even say broker, trader, whatever you want to like, who's ever selling that animal. If that person puts enough faith into your genetics and your program, and they're texting you questions post sale, if you don't have the courtesy, respect to respond, that to me is as disrespectful as anything you can do. And I just don't understand it. I think breeders, brokers, etc., and these are not all by any means, but I think many have succeeded in terms of selling animals for many years without having to respond. But I think those days are changing. I see that shift. I hear it on a regular basis, and I try, and I get a lot of texts during the day, and I get distracted more easily than anyone, and I am more forgetful than anybody that I know. So I will try to respond to those texts as soon as they come in, even though it completely disrupts whatever I'm doing, and I may totally forget what I was doing prior to responding. But if I don't, I lose track and I miss. And I'm sure that there have been multiple texts that I opened and got distracted and didn't go back to. I will open them a month later because there was another question come in and feel terrible that I missed that one somehow. But young lady, if you can start with exactly what Ryan said and give your customer the respect they deserve because they put faith in you, and you can return and try to make their experience as positive as possible, that will be appreciated, period. My answer to the question, Ryan, didn't go down that path, but I like that path better. I had talked about be real. Don't assume you're going to make a living on 20 does and selling show goats or any species. The number of people that are making their livelihood out of raising show animals is a much lower percentage than maybe what the perception is there's usually another source of income and they're doing
Correct.
this out of passion or their hobby. And that's great. I'm all in for all those things. But especially just coming out of college young, secure that source of employment that's going to feed yourself or your family. And if you have the time or disposable income to do this on the side and grow it to a point that, hey, this can be profitable and I can make a living off of doing this, great. But let's get that real job and make sure that things are taken care of first, and then your passion can be on the side. The final question comes from Amanda. Friday is my favorite day of the week. It starts out by listening to you guys. My question is, how do people know when they're raising show stock? And this kind of applies to your previous question. When they're raising show stock that are good enough to put into an online sale, Ryan's favorite, and start merchandising beyond the local level. I think she wants to know when does it work? When do we make that shift?
I think, as Dale so eloquently put earlier in this podcast, 90% of the people on sales are online, even though I think they suck. So,
and it may be 95%. I may be off my statistic.
I guess anytime, if you're going with that.
Yeah, I think you can. And people don't, and for Amanda here, don't think that because you don't think you have to have a national client base to have an online sale. You can have an online sale and local people are buying it. If that facilitates the collection of the payment, if that facilitates any organization or anything that it's going to help you, have at it. I think it works. I know the first online sale we had many years ago, I was questioning, hey, do we do this? Will anybody even show up or bid? It makes you nervous. It's intimidating at times, that first one or two. But once you get on there, and especially if you have some local people buying, and you explain, hey, we're going to have this sale. Can you purchase through this rather than maybe just coming to buy off the farm this time? As long as you're open and transparent, I think you can do it at any point, and you should be fine. Okay, Ryan, thank you. That was maybe longer than what you and I had thought it was going to be, but it's a bright and early Monday morning.
Didn't want it.
I have to have a public service announcement that there are ballots being mailed out, mail-in ballots, and normally I'm a vote on election day kind of person, but I think it is absolutely critical that if you can vote early, just do it.
Don't ask ChatGPT. The sorry app that Stale Best Friend will not tell you.
They are not addressing political issues, I do not believe. But I am a supporter.
Sorry app is what that is. Yes.
So if you have the opportunity, or if you requested a mail-in ballot, gosh darn, don't just let it sit on your desk and get buried like a lot of what I'm looking at on my desk at the moment. Get that put back in. We can't. I don't care if you think you're in the bluest of bluest states, and that would be Illinois, by the way. I am still going to vote. My daughter, Katie, is still going to vote. And even though the announcer at Exarban failed to put in the Trump portion, which I'm not blaming on he or she. I don't know. You don't even know that part got that far.
I want the announcer. I want the responsible person to come forward. I want the responsible person to come forward.
They were just trying to be politically correct, but
I want the responsible person to come forward.
The politically correct thing would have been to allow it, because I am very confident that we had a lot of Trump supporters in the audience.
I want the responsible person to come forward. I would like to talk to them.
Okay. With that, until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now again. You hear?